And let's get going. So here we are, module 1 of the Facebook Floodgate system. Module 1 is market match, deep market intelligence. And what I want to ultimately cover in today's module is how to intimately know your ideal customer, and not just to be able to intimately know them, but to know them so that you can A, dominate your market, and B, once you really know them, then you will never really have to quote unquote sell again. And that's the beauty of this, and this is really what we want to cover, because, you know, in the business world generally, there's a lot of emphasis on being a strong salesperson. And I agree to some degree that that's important. Everyone needs to have some basic sales skills, of course. But the reality is that most business owners, and especially coaches and consultants and people who are practitioners of their trade, are terrible salespeople. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's only because that they are practicing what they're really good at, and as a result, they're not always the best salespeople. Nor do I find that most entrepreneurs is sales it's something that they really want to do or really learn how to do. Now, again, I think it's a skill that everyone should end up learning and taking in. But on top of that, how would you feel, or how would you like to feel about just concentrating on your trade, what it is that you are good at, bringing transformational results to your clients, and kind of let the selling take care of itself? So I want to start here with a bit of a confession. And that confession, and I think Ted called me out on this a little bit already, but that confession is that I'm a terrible salesperson. I'm really not good at negotiating. I'm not good at enrollment calls. I don't always have the right things to say. I don't have the right scripts to say. And yet, despite all that, I've built a 7-figure business. I have a waiting list of people who are waiting to work with me in my practice. I turn down more people than I actually say yes to on a monthly basis. And much of all of that has to do with understanding exactly what we are going to talk about today. And that's having deep market intelligence. And here's what kind of what I want to start with. Marketing is not persuasion, and marketing is not manipulation. See, a lot of people have this presentation or this idea in their head that marketing is persuading somebody to do something that they don't want to do, or manipulating a scenario for someone to take an action that they might not want to take. Now, sure, you might be able to do some of that if you really want and you're really skilled. I don't think that's a long-term play for your business, but it is an option. But marketing, in my opinion, is not turning a no into a yes. I'll say that again. Marketing is not turning a no into a yes. What it is identifying the need of your marketplace and then simply providing them a solution. Or in other words, it's finding your customers who are already saying yes. So again, most people that I find that I work with are afraid of selling, or they're afraid of marketing because they think, you know, quote unquote, selling someone, it means to turn a no into a yes. And so they almost take this like battle ready position, if you will. I hope you know what I mean. It's almost like, well, there's a prospective customer and here I am, here's what I have to offer. Now let's battle. And whoever wins this is kind of the winner of this enrollment conversation. And so, look, I understand that, and a lot of people think that this is a chess game, but my life and my business really took a radical change when I realized that it was about finding customers who are already a yes, rather than trying to turn them into yeses. Now, as an example of this, and this is just a hypothetical example. Well, actually, it's based on a true story, but the example is hypothetical. I know a guy who I guess we would call is a man's man. All right. I mean, this guy is got body hair everywhere. He works out all the time. He's got that big beard. He always carries an axe around. He wears flannel. He's always wearing, you know, Timberland boots. He plays football in his spare time. He's this big tough guy, and you think when you see him, he probably belongs to Duck Dynasty or something. Now, if you wanted to try and convince him to go out tonight and to eat, and again, nothing against this, and this is just for the sake of the example, but if you tried to convince him to go out and eat a gluten-free, vegan, leafy green salad with a raspberry vinaigrette for dinner, okay, that probably would take a massive amount of effort, and the reality is you'd probably have to blur the lines of truth a little bit in order to convince him to do that. However, the alternative approach to that would be later in the day, he's massively hungry, he's complaining about how hungry he is, and then it's like trying to convince him to go out for steaks and beers. Now, in that kind of scenario, that wouldn't require much effort at all, right? I mean, in our business, we could spend a whole bunch of time and energy and know-how and effort to try and convince people that they want or they need what we have to offer. And so we'd have to handle objections, and we'd have to make really big promises, and we'd have to kind of be persuasive about it all just to make it work. Or we could find people who have indicated that not only are they interested in what we have to offer, but they actually want and have bought stuff in the past that are related to what we have to do. So it's not like we have to worry about trying to convince them to take what we have to offer or to want what we have. They already have that, and the marketing aspect of it is just finding those people who have already said yes, because this is really important to the whole thing. I just want to make sure that you realize how easy and how structured, I mean, actual marketing really is. It's not a heavy battle. It's really just understanding this thing. So here's the issue. There are 3 dangers or 3 risks that you face if you don't understand what we're talking about today. Risk number 1 is that your marketing will be generic and uninteresting, and so nobody's really going to listen to you. See, the reality is if you try to attract everybody and you don't understand your market, the reality is that your business is going to attract nobody. I mean, the reality is it is a noisy world out there. And when we approach the marketplace, you can either be a part of the noise in your market, or you can rise up and above the noise and stand out. And I mean, this is kind of a rhetorical question, but which would you prefer? Would you prefer to be the noise in the marketplace, or would you prefer to rise up and rise above the noise and stand out? I can only assume that you want to be above it. So this is one of the dangers. If you don't get what we're talking about, all of your marketing and all of your communication is going to be generic and uninteresting. Number 2, you're going to have to sell hard. Now, I've already alluded to this, but if you don't know your market, every single transaction is going to be a much more difficult one. It's going to be like pulling teeth. You're going to have conversations with people, and you're not really going to know where they stand, and you're going to really want them to be involved in what you do, but it's going to be a process. I mean, I've heard it said that the key to causing a transaction, now listen to this, the key to causing a transaction is not being understood by your ideal customer, which is what most people think, but rather having your ideal customer feel understood by their experience with you. Now, I'm going to say that one more time because that is very, very important. See, the key to causing a transaction is not being understood by your ideal customer, but by having your ideal customer feel understood by their experience with you. And as soon as in a conversation or that you're having with somebody, that person feels like you understand them, you are not going to have to do any selling, but that transaction will be much more simpler. And thirdly, if you don't understand, this is the third danger, you're going to attract less than ideal customers who are going to make your life so difficult. And this is probably the worst one for me personally anyways. I don't know about you. But for me, this is, I mean, totally crazy. So how many people in here have ever worked with a non-ideal client? Now, I'm actually going to take a second to stop here and take a look at the questions here. How many people in here have ever worked with a non-ideal client? Yes, someone says. And tell me, and as you're responding to this, tell me how that experience was. I mean, a lot of people are saying, yes, of course, yes, of course. Sadly, more than one, which was a nightmare. Exactly. Just today. I love that. Sucks. Very challenging and draining, like pulling teeth. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if there's anything in the world out there, anything else worse in the world out there, than working with a non-ideal, terrible client. I know when I first started my business, I was everything to everybody. And because I didn't identify my ideal client and my ideal customer, the problem was I started to attract everybody. And the result was I wanted to stab myself in the eyes. I mean, when you don't know your target market and you don't know who you're actually trying to serve, what's going to happen is you're going to attract all the wrong people. And the real question is, would you rather have all the right people as clients or all the wrong people? And I'm going to assume that you're going to answer by saying all the right people. Now, if you do get this right, if you understand what we're talking about today, there are some 3 great and amazing benefits that are going to come as a result of this. Number 1, you're going to stand out in your marketplace. Because think about this, and I know this is kind of general, and I hope you get the point I'm trying to make with it, but who do you think will get more business? A small business coach, or B, a coach that works specifically with chiropractors? Now, let's say you're a chiropractor and you're looking for a coach. Are you going to work with someone who's a small business coach and can help all small business coaches? Or are you going to work with someone who works specifically with the type of solution that you're looking for? Now, I'm going to talk more about that in a second, but when you understand this, the first benefit is that you're going to stand out. Exactly, the chiro coach, because it's super specific. Now, the second benefit that you'll get out of this is easy selling, right? Selling becomes so much easier. So when you really know your market and you position yourself properly in your market, people are just going to naturally come to you. And let me just throw this caveat there. This is a lot better than having you go out and chase them. It's the difference really between push versus pull marketing. And we never want to be in the situation where we are in push marketing. We don't want to be pushing something down anybody's throat. We always want to be in the position of pull marketing, where we are attracting the right people to us. Because the reality is, you can either be the flame or you can be the moth, right? You can either be the one being chased or you can be the one doing the chasing. And I'm going to prescribe to you today that you probably want to be the flame. You probably want to be the one being chased, and that will make things so much easier. I mean, how many people in here really would like it and could highly benefit if you had people constantly knocking at your door? If you had people constantly saying, hey, I want to do business with you, and you never really had to go out and chase anyone ever again? How many people would like that? Now, here's the third benefit. The third benefit is that your velvet rope allows you to work only with your dream clients. Let me say that one more time. Your velvet rope allows you to work only with your dream clients. Like, let me, and I only say this to prove a point here. This month alone, in the month of February, and I know we're coming to the end of it, but in the month of February alone, I have turned down $240,000 in business. In February alone, I have literally said no to people who were begging, well, not begging, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but who were looking to give me their money and to work with them in their business. Now, why would I do such a thing? The answer is because I know who I serve best. I know who my market is. I know who my ideal client is. And I know that if I ever expand outside of that, I end up getting very, very frustrated. I ended up working with people I don't actually like, and I end up wanting to kill myself, and then my wife ends up paying the price because I'm grumpy and mad and not happy all the time. And I take it out on the people who are closest to me, and unfortunately that ends up being my wife. I wonder if anyone can relate to that. I mean, it's if you just start taking your ideal customers and clients, that is the scenario you want to be in. So one of the greatest things that I have going for me right now is the fact that I am laser focused on my dream client and who I serve. And because of that, I know them intimately. They know me intimately. We serve each other. And as a result, I get the best clients and they get the best service. And we're all familia. I mean, literally, I treat my clients and the people that I work with as family, and they the same, because I have this capability now to obviously pick and choose who I work with. And that's the benefit of understanding the market. So think about this. If you knew this market match, okay? If you knew this market match, this module 1 that we're talking about today, and you had a deep market intelligence, what would be the greatest benefit that you are currently looking for? Of what I just mentioned here, and go ahead and write this into the box. If you really had a good understanding of your market and you had deep market intelligence, what is the greatest benefit that you are looking for or that you want to take away from understanding this whole thing? So, 3 key principles here to market domination. We're going to go through the 3 key principles to market domination. I'm going to first list them, and then I'm going to go into each one of them more deeply, and this will be essentially the makeup of the content of this training. So key principle number 1 is find your pond. In other words, carve out your piece of the market. So number 1, find your pond, carve out your piece of the market. Number 2, identify your fish, or in other words, create your avatar. Okay, so identify your fish, create your avatar. And then key principle number 3, cast your net, or in other words, call on your recon. Now I'm going to go over all three of these in much more depth, but number 1, find your pond, right? So let me do this again. Number 1, find your pond, carve out your piece of the market. Number 2, identify your fish, or in other words, create your avatar. And 3, cast your net or your nets and call on your recon. So let's go into number 1 first. Find your pond, carve out your piece of the market. Now this is determined by 3 things. Number 1, what you do. Number 2, who is it that you serve? And number 3, where you stand. Okay? So this whole thing starts with selecting your marketplace. Who is it that is in your market? And this is the most important part of this entire process. Now, someone once said or asked, would you rather be a small fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond? And that's a legitimate question, but a lot of people like to be a small fish in a big pond because they think that there's more pond to get and there's more opportunity out there and there's so many different clients. But for me, I will take small pond all day long. Yes, big fish. I want to be the big fish in a tiny pond. Now, before we get into that, what we have to do here is really identify what it is that you do. And by that I mean what you really do. So sure, you might be a coach, or you might be a speaker, or you might be a consultant, or you might be a practitioner of some sort. That's all great, but that is not what you really do. I mean, that's what you tactically do. But what you really do and who you really are is a solution provider. You want to keep this in the forefront of your mind at all times. What you really are, besides being a coach, a speaker, a consultant, a practitioner of some sort, you are a solution provider. Because here's the reality. Nobody wants a consultant. Nobody really wants a coach. I mean, yes, they want what the coach or the consultant might bring to them, but what they're really looking for here is a solution to a current problem. So they are people, our marketplace are people who have current problems and are looking for solutions. And your job then is to bring a solution to someone who has a problem and is already looking for that solution. I hope that makes sense. There's a market out there who has problems and they're already looking for solutions. And your job is to go out and to bring them that solution. So you are in the business of what? Usually when I ask that, the people say, well, I'm in the coaching business, or I'm in the health business, or I'm a holistic practitioner, or I do this, or I do energy work, or whatever be. No, that is not your business. You are in the business, and you got to write this down if you're taking notes. You are in the business of helping people. That's it, bottom line. You are in the business of bringing solutions to their problems. This is what you do. It's not your title. Your title is nice and it's fancy and it looks nice on a business card, but what you actually do is bring solutions to people, or your job is to help people. And the more that you can be clear about that, the more people you are going to help. And the more people you are going to help, the better business you are going to have. So this all starts by knowing what you really do. And just to make sure that you got this, type into the answer box or the question box there what it is that you really do. So again, keep in the forefront of your mind at all times that your job, what you do, and everything that you do is a solution provider. Now, next, remember it's what you do, and next is who you serve, right? And there are two parts to identifying who you really serve. There's you, and then there is them. So let's start with you. See, most people start with themselves and their business, and then they go out and try to find a match, right? So they're like, this is what I do, this is what I have to offer. Let's go out and find people who might be interested in what I have to offer. And so what essentially tends to happen is they end up trying to force their idea or their product or their program down the other person's throat, who may not even be all that much interested. See, the old way of doing business was this. It's you have an idea, and so from that idea you create a program or a solution or a practice around that idea, or whatever, and then you find your customers. And I'm going to suggest today that you might flip that a little bit backwards and you look at it another way. Now, I learned this from a good friend of mine named Giovanni, and he calls it the ascension model, and this is essentially what it looks like. You first start with your hero client, or in other words, your ideal client. Now, the best way to find who that person is basically to apply the 80-20 rule. Now, I'm sure everybody's familiar with Pareto's principle. It's the 80-20 rule that says that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. Now, if you probably look at your business, in a typical business, you would see that 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers, or 80% of your most happiest ideal situation in your business comes from only 20% of the people. But I'm going to suggest you take it beyond the 80-20 rule. I'm going to suggest you take it to what I call the 96-4 rule. In other words, 20% of the 20%. See, if you can design the perfect ideal client, right, who shares the same beliefs as you, who shares the same dreams as you, who sees the world the same way, who thinks the same way, who stands for the same things, who would that person be? And think about that for a second. I want you to write that down on your piece of paper or whatever you're taking notes with. If you're starting with your hero client, who is the 4% that would make all the great things great for you, who you would love to work with on a regular basis? Who are they? What do they like? What do they act like? What values do they hold? Now, once you've identified that, your next step is to determine what is their ideal future. Okay? So what do they really want? What is their dream? And while you're at it, what is their nightmare? Okay, so when you're thinking about your ideal customer client, or what we call a hero client, if you will, you want to think about what is their ideal future? What is their ultimate goal? What is their greatest aspiration? What is their deepest dream? And what is their nightmare? And here's where the beauty of it comes in. Your business, your strategy, your consultation, what it is that you do is your gift to them. And your gift is simply taking them farther away from their nightmare and taking them closer to their dream. Does that make sense? What your role in this whole thing is to take what you have, that's your gift, which is essentially to take them farther away from their nightmare and closer to their dream. And this is in manifestation of your program or your product. See, if you start with their end in mind, and you design your business around serving them and helping them and realizing that you are a solution provider, then you are beginning to identify your market. Now, before we can actually do any sort of marketing, you really need to know who your target market is. Who is your ideal client? Because remember, your business hinges not on your ability to provide a product or a service. Your business hinges on identifying the needs of your market and then providing a solution. That was gold. And because it was gold, I'm going to say it one more time. Your business hinges not on your ability to provide a product or a service, but rather on identifying the needs of your market and providing a solution. Now, once you've identified your market, going through this mini exercise that we just took you through here, once you've identified your pond, right? You know what you do, you're a solution provider, and you're in the business of helping people. You now know who you serve, right? Which is your hero client, and what is it that they're trying to achieve in their life. The next question, remember, is, well, where do I stand? Because you have two options when it comes to serving your marketplace. You can either be a generalist and compete in a quote-unquote red ocean, a sea of competition with everybody else who does exactly what you do, or you can be a specialist and you can create a blue ocean. Now, blue ocean is a term taken from the Blue Ocean Strategy, and essentially it means creating a segment of your market where you are the only provider in there because you're a specialist, and as a result, you don't have any competition. So let me tell you what I mean, and I tell this story all the time, but it really drives the point home. As of this month, there are just over 112,706 real estate agents in my hometown of Toronto. Now, let's say you just got out of high school or university, or you're transitioning from a certain job and you want to be a real estate agent. Now, let's think about this. That in and of itself is a bloody red ocean. There's lots of competition. It's going to cost you lots to acquire a customer, and you're going to need to compete on some sort of gimmick. And by that I mean, and you hear people say this all the time, right? If it's, hey, let me list your house, and if we say, I'll stage your house for free, or if it's not sold in 21 days or less, I'll buy your house for you, or I'll take a less commission on the commission rate. And all those are terrible things to do in your business. So that in and of itself would be a hard market to crack. In fact, according to Salary.com, the average real estate agent makes between $34,000 and $45,000 annually. Okay? Now, I think I've already introduced you to him before, but this is my friend Giovanni, a very close friend of mine, and he's a real estate agent in Toronto. Now, he does over $1 million a year in revenue, but here's the difference. He has never, ever sold a house in his life. In fact, he doesn't even know how to sell a house. Why? Because he, A, knows what he does, B, he knows who he serves, and C, he knows where he stands. Let me explain. Giovanni focuses on the downtown pre-construction condo market, serving local and international investors. So, rather than being all things to all people, which essentially makes you nothing to nobody, if that makes sense, he got very specific in his niche. So the takeaway here is get very specific about who you serve and what you do. Another way to put this is to niche down. Giovanni identified his ideal client, and then he worked backwards from there. So I don't know if you remember me saying this, but this is a key point in a writer-downer. The best way to do this is to, A, find an underserved segment of your marketplace, and B, make sure they're an affluent segment, and then be the absolute best solution provider in that space. So I'll say that one more time. It is find an underserved affluent segment of your marketplace, and then be the best solution provider in that space. Because when you do that, There is no competition, right? Because you're looking for an underserved market in your space, so there's not a lot of people in that space competing. And number two, when you're the only solution provider and you're meeting an affluent segment, you can demand higher prices. Now let me just pause here for a quick second and throw it back to the question box. How many people in here would like to charge higher fees for what they do? And no, not just for the sake of making more money. I mean, that's nice and it's great, but higher fees, why? Just so you can work with better people, so you don't have to worry about your family, so you attract the right type of client, so you can have a better position in your marketplace. Yeah, of course. But it's funny, when you talk to a lot of people, when I talk to a lot of people, they're scared to charge higher fees. Now, here's an example. A buddy of mine did SEO, or in other words, search engine optimization. Now, he could have been just your regular type of client and you know, help anybody who kind of needs SEO type services, but he instead decided to reach out to plastic surgeons in his area. Now, the reason being because plastic surgeons were underserved in his marketplace and they were affluent. In fact, if he could get one client for them, that client would be worth anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000. So he set up his SEO practice to basically charge his clients $10,000 a month for SEO services, and all he had to do was essentially is get them one client, which wasn't too difficult to do. Now, what did he do? He had this all day long. Clients were coming to him and say, hey, only $10,000 and I can get $25,000 worth of fees for every $10,000 I spend. I'll do that all day long. All he needed then was 10 clients at $10,000 a client to have $1 million business. And in fact, he had a multi-million-dollar business doing it that way. Now, for the longest time, and this is just an example for me, I was just a marketing consultant. And look, I served my clients well, and I was doing okay, but everything changed when I recognized A, an underserved affluent segment of my market, and then B, I was really good at doing what I did, and so thus I was able to demand higher fees. So I started as a marketing consultant, but part of what I did as a marketing consultant was do Facebook ads. So I said, well, I think there's a market there. So I pivoted my business and I became a Facebook ad specialist. And then I realized that there was a segment in my marketplace that was being underserved. So I started serving them. And that was the high-end coach and consultant or service provider or information marketer. So then I positioned myself as a Facebook strategist for high-end coaches, consultants, expert information marketers. And I all of a sudden started to acquire the biggest names in the industry. And now, as a result of doing just that, I'm now the leading authority in this specific space. I have people calling me all the time, and I actually have a waiting list of people who are waiting to work with me, and I charge some of the highest ticket prices in the industry. Now, question, if you had a heart problem, and I'm just trying to like drive this point home, if you had a heart problem, would you rather go to a general practitioner, a GP, or would you rather go to a cardiac specialist? Now, I'm assuming if you had a heart issue and maybe a pending heart attack, the obvious answer is, well, of course I wouldn't want to go to an average doctor. Not that there's anything wrong with being an average doctor, but if my life is on the line, I want to go to a cardiac specialist. Yes, of course. And between a GP or general practitioner and a cardiac specialist or a cardiac surgeon, who do you think gets paid more? Do you think the GP gets paid more? No, he's probably making like $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year being a general practitioner. That cardiac specialist is making a lot more than that. So the first step to grabbing your market share and is to move up the ladder of market position. I'll say that one more time. Your first step to grabbing your market share is to move up the ladder of market position. And here is the ladder of market position. So let me use this, the bottom being the lowest, the top being the highest. Let me use this in the real estate niche just so you kind of get the point of it, all right? So at the general level, let's say in the real estate, department, the generalist would be a real estate agent. So this is someone who sells, any kind of home, all kinds of home in their particular area, and they do a decent job at it, okay? Now, moving up that ladder would be a specialist. So not a generalist, but a specialist. And that could be someone like my friend, like Giovanni, who's a pre-construction condo real estate seller. Okay, so he focuses on pre-construction, downtown, lakeshore, condo developments, and that would be in a specialist. And of course, higher than a generalist is a specialist, and specialist gets paid more than a generalist. I hope you're getting this so far. Now, even above the specialist would be an authority. So in this case, for the sake of kind of a general kind of understanding here, that would be someone, let's say, like Robert Kiyosaki. Now, I know that Robert Kiyosaki has sold his business, and he no longer actually owns his own name as a brand. I don't know if you know that. But anyways, for the sake of the example, the authority here is Robert Kiyosaki, okay? Now, if we were to take it even a step further to celebrity status, who do you think that would be? Now, I'm not going to wait for your answers. That would be someone like Donald Trump. Okay, now a celebrity in the marketplace. Now, Donald Trump demands a $1 million speaking fee for every 1 hour keynote that he gives. So as you can see, the higher you go up in your market ladder, the higher you charge, the less selling you have to do, the less work you have to do, and the better position you hold in your marketplace. So good, you're getting this. The goal here then is to choose your position in the marketplace, and the higher you can go, the better. You want to be higher on that ladder because the higher you go, number one, you get paid more, which is nice, and that's cool. But even beyond that, people are predisposed to doing business with you even before doing business with you. I hope that makes sense. I mean, think about it. If you are looking to be trained in real estate investing, would you rather get trained from the Donald himself, or would you want to be trained by some random real estate guy who says he thinks he knows what he's doing? I would pick the Donald. So when people come to me now, this is kind of the beauty I have in my marketplace right now, is that when people come to me now, they are already predisposed to doing business with me, and it's never about making the sale. It's always about me seeing if I have a right fit with that person. And then it's either a yes or a no. And that's the beauty of it. So let me just throw in this quick bonus thing here for 2 minutes, because some of you might be asking, well, how do we move up in the ladder of market positioning? I won't want to leave you hanging on there. So there's two ways, well, there's kind of three ways, but two main ways to move up this ladder of market positioning. The first way is through association. Okay? Association. One of the quickest ways to create positioning in your marketplace is by associating with other people or brands who are already influencers in your space. Now, I'm going to throw some names here, and I'm going to name drop a little bit. I don't know if these names will make any sense to you because you might not be in the space. But for example, one of my early on clients that we got to serve was a guy by the name of Joe Polish. Now, Joe Polish is the head of the 25K group. He's the head of Piranha Marketing, and he's one of like the most well-connected entrepreneurs in the entire world. He connects people with Branson and a whole bunch of other things. And so when I started to serve Joe, we started to get some great results, and now I was associated with him as being the key leading marketing strategist and Facebook strategist in his business. What do you think started to happen, right? All of a sudden, everybody started to see me as a higher level authority. I was moving up in the ladder of the chain because of my associations. Now, when it comes to association, you can do one of two things. You can pay for them, or you can earn them. An example of paying for them would be to join a particular mastermind group, or pay for a mentorship, or do a joint venture deal, or do some sort of a business transaction with somebody. Or on the flip side, you can earn it by going out and serving these people and working your network and making introductions and creating relationships and that sort of thing. And then you can create that association. So way number one to go up the ladder is through association. And way number two is through what I call affiliation. I mean, think about this, and I hope you get it by just using this simple example. If I said that my work was published on CNN, Huffington Post, Forbes Magazine, Entrepreneur Magazine, Success Magazine, and like Fox News or whatever, that would position me very differently than if I was like featured on a mommy blog, right? I hope you're seeing this. So the affiliations that you have, the groups that you are part of, the people that you write for, the networks that you are connected with will help elevate your status in your marketplace. And then feel free to use those affiliations in some of your communications and marketing. So again, coming back to the main point here, this is what happens when you know what you do, you know who you serve, and you know where you stand. Essentially, you begin to create this velvet rope around you, and you're only beginning to let your dream clients in. So what you're going to have to start to get really used to is what I call, quote unquote, rejection marketing. And that is simply being strong enough in your position in your business to say no to the wrong people and only yes to the right people. And here's what's going to happen when you do that. Number one, when you say no to the wrong people, A, it's going to make sure that you only work with people you like. And we've all determined that that's something that we want to do. But B, even more than that, it makes the people that you are already working with feel special. I hope you're understanding that. So by excluding other people from being able to work with you and join your group, it makes the people that you are currently working with feel a lot better, and you create a lot stronger tribe. So what I'm essentially saying is, be the Ferrari, not the Toyota. Okay? Now, there's nothing wrong with the Toyota at all. But if you think about this analogy, the Ferrari salesman works a lot less and gets paid a lot more than the Toyota dealer. I hope you're seeing this. When you are the Ferrari in your marketplace, then you work less, you get paid more, and you create an elegant position about your place in that marketplace. So key number one is find your pond. Know what you do, know who you serve, and know where you stand. Now, moving through quickly, we got 2 more of these to go. Number 2 is identify your fish, or in other words, create your avatar. So now you're in this small pond, right? And you are the big fish. Awesome. Next question is, who are you fishing for? Okay? Because you need to be really, really specific about this, because you cannot be a quote unquote business coach. You cannot be a quote unquote healer. You cannot be a quote unquote energy worker and just leave it at that. We need to drill down, and you can drill down in one of 2 ways. You can drill down by choosing a more specific title of what you actually do, which is beneficial, but even more than that, you can be more specific about who it is that you choose to work with. In other words, your fish. Now, we're going to talk about the marketing triangle, which we alluded to a little bit before, but this is just kind of a refresher to drive this point home. The first part of the marketing triangle is market pulse, right? First and foremost, you want to know what is the pulse of your industry. I don't know if you remember, but I told you about Kellogg's, for example, who when they first started were spending millions marketing cornflakes. And then all of a sudden, the fiber craze hit, the high fiber craze hit in the industry. They shifted their marketing dollars to All Brand and Raisin Bran, which were very quiet brands before, and they saved their business, and their business skyrocketed, right? Starwood Hotels was another example. They realized that travelers wanted 3 things: nice pillows, nice beds, and high-speed internet. And so they branded these 3 things as part of their business, and their business took off, right? Someone at Toyota realized that gas prices were going up, that people were shifting towards a more green alternative, and so they answered with the Prius, who now owns and dominates the hybrid car market. So you want to start asking yourself the question, what is the current trend that is causing movement in your industry right now? Or in other words, what is the wave that you need to start riding, right? In fitness, as an example, it's like CrossFit. This is kind of the latest thing that everyone's been doing and talking about if you're high in the fitness space, right? In the health space, it's like paleo and high-fat diets. In the real estate space, it's finding deals and getting funding. In the Facebook space, in my space, it's all about compliance and keeping your ads account. So what is it in your industry? You know, I was talking to a business coach, one of my clients the other day, who is a business coach specifically for holistic practitioners. And she was telling me that the buzzword in her industry is signature programs. Everybody wants to create their signature program. So now she has offered something that's specifically geared to signature programs. Now, every industry is different, and every industry is changing all the time. So this is something that you need to know, however, about your industry, because if you don't, it's almost like promoting non-fat diets right now when the industry has moved to high-fat diets. And if you're going to do that, what do you think is going to happen to your business? So you really need to stay on top of the trend, and you want to be just in front of the trend, and you never want to be behind the trend. Otherwise, you're going to lose relevance, okay? Now, there's no real exercise that I can put you through here to help you find this out. This is just something that you're going to start to need to pick up and know by being in the midst of your industry. So that is one part of the triangle, is market pulse. The second one is market behavior. So here's where you want to really start digging a little bit deeper, and we're going to take you through an exercise in just a second to show you how to do this. But here's where you want to ask the questions like, who or what are the influencers that the industry is following, right? If I were to say something like personal development, if most people, when they think of influencer, they think of Tony Robbins. If I were to say like online business and entrepreneurship right now, a lot of people will turn around and say, well, someone like Brendan Burchard, for example. So every industry has influencers, and you want to know what are they saying? You want to know how are they saying it, and what is the actual content. And we're going to again talk about a little bit more about this. But here's the idea that you need to understand the market behavior. Like, how do they behave on and offline? What platforms do they use? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Pinterest? What times are they online? Do they like to tweet and retweet? What do they like to like on, share on Facebook, right? I mean, I gave you this example before. If I'm putting out content that I want entrepreneurs to read, I'm going to do that in the wee hours of the morning versus when I'm going to put content out for soccer moms to read, which would probably be mid-afternoon. So it's very, very important that you know and you make sure that your message, which we're going to talk about next module, next week, you're going to have to make sure you know the market, because when you're putting out your message, it's going to have to find the right eyes and ears. Now, I'm going to show you some things in just a second, but just keep that in mind. Now, thirdly here, of this point of finding your fish, is understanding your customer avatar. Now, here's what I just want to spend just a little bit of time, because this is really key to this idea of finding your fish, because you need to have a true grasp on this one concept alone. And if you do, this can change everything for you. Now, I'm going to go through some stuff here in just a second, and then I'm going to give you a quick exercise that's kind of technically be homework. You're going to need to do this on your own time over the next couple of weeks to really get into the nitty-gritty of this. But when people ask, what is your customer avatar? In fact, let me just ask that really to do a quick check-in here. If I were to ask, what is your customer avatar? Here's the exercise for this. When we're coming and we're talking about your customer avatar, it's essentially not only knowing who they are, but you're actually, putting characteristics, you're putting a story, you're putting a name, you're putting an idea, you're putting messages and concepts around this person who cannot be too broad or too general. See, once you've created this composite of this person, now all of your words and all of your messages and all of your conversations are going to now revolve around this person. It's going to make your marketing that much more powerful. So you want to give this person a real identity. You want to know what their name is. You want to know their age, their occupation, their family. You want to know all about their fears and their frustrations. You want to know about their wants and their aspirations. I mean, you want to literally tell a story of their life, and you want to keep the story on the forefront of everything that you do. Now, as an example of this, I gave a student this assignment before, and this is what they came up with, and I'm going to literally read this word for word just so you get this, because it is very, very important. So I said, create your customer avatar, and this is what they did. They said, I want to start marketing fitness programs, and I've identified that the market I want to sell to is best represented by a 35 to 40-year-old guy. So to create my customer avatar, I have fleshed out this guy, and I think about his life, I think about his family, I think about what interests him and what his problems are and how my product can address that. So here's what he says. To start with, I gave him a name. I called him Mark. I gave him a type of job. He worked in an office. He had an hour commute to and from work. He worked from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. He lived in Pennsylvania, somewhere in the suburbs. He had this white house with a beige garage door and a beige minivan that he drove home. And every night when he came home, there was a big wheel and some other toys in the front lawn that his kids didn't clean up. Now, Mark had a couple of kids, and his family was everything to him. So he just wanted to get home each and every day after work so that he could spend time with his wife and kids. But back in college, he was a pretty active guy, and he really wanted to get back into shape. Maybe it was something to do with his wife, or some type of relationship issues, or maybe some guys at work were giving him a hard time, or maybe he just didn't have the energy. See, many guys like Mark say they want fitness programs because, hey, I just want more energy to keep up with my kids. His kids were getting to that stage now where they really wanted to play all the time, and he couldn't because he had gotten out of shape from his lifestyle of driving to and from work and sitting at work all day. Now, in his backyard, he has a barbecue, and that's where he goes every night and has a barbecue with his family. And then they play a little bit, maybe baseball or basketball in the backyard. Then he reads a story to his kids, and he goes to bed. By this point, it's 9:30 p.m. at night, and that's the only time he has to exercise. So this is when Mark comes online. He's looking for some program that he can do in his basement with just a bit of equipment that he's started to stash away or he's built up over the years and gotten at a garage sale. So when it comes to what my business can sell Mark, we understand that he is tired. He doesn't have much time. We understand that his priorities cannot be centered around his fitness program. With all of this in mind, we can empathize with Mark's life and we can sell to him and not just everyone. Now, I'm hoping you see the power of that. When we're talking about customer avatars, that's what we're talking about. And you can go as deep as with this as you possibly can. In fact, I would even go as far to create this character and put this kind of on your wall. Now, here's your custom avatar tool that I'm going to show you in just a second. But I found this site that I think is great, and it's Mad Men Yourself. I'll give you a link in just a bit, but it's fbincubator.com/madmen. Again, fbincubator.com/madmen, and you go to this, and you literally create your avatar. So if I click like getting started here, you can start a suit or a skirt. So are you trying to be a man or a woman? So just for the sake of this, I'm going to say a suit. And then you can start with a whole bunch of things, right? So first you're going to choose your skin color, right? And then you're going to choose your body shape. So let's say my avatar is, like this. You're going to click next. That's going to give you another thing to do. So what's the head shape? Let's say it's kind of bigger, on the bigger side, if you will. You can pick his hair color. So let's say he's blonde and he's got, what are we going to do? How about a hair like a little bit of gray, right? Now, I'm not going to go through and finish the rest of this, but this is actually a great exercise for you to do because you can start to create your avatar. And when you do create your avatar, what's going to happen is you're going to post this wherever you go and whatever you do, and you're going to have a real good understanding that when you start communicating with people, this is the thought that you have in mind. So, Leo Burnett said it this way: if you can't turn yourself into your customer, you probably shouldn't be in your business at all. Wow, that's a powerful statement, so I'm going to repeat it one more time. If you can't turn yourself into your customer, you probably shouldn't be in your business at all. Now, I have an exercise that I'm going to quickly go over here, but this is your homework. This is what you got to do for creating your customer avatar here, and I'll tell you where you can get it. But it's a PDF called your Ideal Customer Avatar Tool. Well, this is going to walk you through how to create your ideal customer. So step one, think of your ideal customers. What do they have in common? Write that all down, right? Give them a name, an age, a gender, hair, residence, income, occupation. Step three, now be your ideal customer. Have their feelings and their emotions. Write that out. Step four, what do they secretly fear? Don't forget to answer each question as your ideal customer. And it continues. Now, once you have this, at the end of this, you're going to have a really clear understanding of who your customer avatar is. So again, that's going to be your assignment as you go this week, fbincubator.com/avatar. And what that's going to do, it's going to give you that form for you to fill out. So here we are on the home stretch. Remember, number one is find your pond, carve out your particular market with what you do, who you serve, where you stand. Number two is find your fish, right? Create your avatar, know the pulse of your marketplace, etc. And now thirdly, cast your net. It's now time to throw dynamite in your pond, throw that net out there, and reel them all in. Now, there are three very simple and easy ways to do this. Two that are specific to Facebook, which I'm going to show you, and this is going to be ultimately important to what we're going to do in later modules, so pay attention to those. When we're rolling out your Facebook campaigns. And then one is just kind of a general thing that's very important to do and you want to throw out there right away. So number one is what I call survey siphon. And here's the idea, and it's very, very easy, right? This is how we start to cast our net. and find and identify who our marketplace is. To find out who your ideal customer and clients are, you want to throw a survey out there, and you want to find out what they like, what they need most. And how are you going to do this? You're simply going to ask them, right? I mean, if you have clients, any amount of clients, if you have 1 client or if you have 10 clients or you have 400 clients, it doesn't matter. Or even if you don't have clients and you have a small social media following on Facebook, right? There's no better way to find out what they want by simply asking them. I mean, here's what you might do, and it could be a different variation of this, but here's what you might do. You might send out an email to all your clients or put out a post on your Facebook that says something like this. Let's say you're in the dog training business. You might say something like this. Hey, so-and-so, people have always been asking me to teach them dog training forever, and I've never really considered doing the specifics of this, but I'm thinking of putting a course together like that. Would you be interested? If so, and you could sit down with me to have a coffee for an hour to discuss dog training, what would be your top 2 or 3 questions that you have about this topic? Now, of course, you wouldn't be dog training. You would replace the dog training with whatever it is that you do, but this is invaluable market intelligence that your customers, who are your ideal customers and clients anyways, are going to literally spoon feed you exactly what it is that they want. And guess what you do with what it is that they want? You go around and you give it right back to them. And this is in the form of a practice, of a coaching program, of a product, whatever it be. So here's an example. I run a Facebook group, and in my Facebook group, it's all about people wanting to learn how to, do Facebook marketing. And so I put out a post a while ago, and I basically asked it this way, and this is actually the post I put out. I said, second, I would love your opinion. I'm working on a project right now, and I would love to know what type of information you most want and what would help you with your Facebook marketing this year. A, would you like regular advanced Facebook marketing training via webinar articles and videos? B, would you like over-the-shoulder walkthroughs of how I run my and my clients' campaigns, showing you a behind-the-scenes look at the good, the bad, and the ugly? C, would you like regular live Q&A calls where you can ask anything you like and have going on in your campaigns and have me answer it live? Or D, office hours, right? Where at certain times of every week, I make myself available on a first-come, first-served basis on Skype or Google Hangout to share a screen and to go over any specifics of your particular Facebook campaigns. Now, just let me know in the comment section below so I can figure out the best ways to serve y'all. And guess what happened? They all answered. They all just literally respond and say, hey, I like this, I like this, I like this. And guess what I did with those answers? I provided a product or a service that provided answers for them. And of course, everybody who wanted it joined, right? So you want to ask things like, what keeps them up at night? If you could solve just one problem in your life today, what would that problem be? Now, Karen is asking, how do you get them to answer? That's a great question. Now, if you're doing it on a Facebook post, they can answer simply with a comment. But if you'd rather not do it that way, I really like using something like SurveyMonkey. So surveymonkey.com or Woofoo Forms. So that would be WOOFOO, Woofoo Forms. And all you can do is create a form or create a survey. So I think SurveyMonkey is even free. You create that form, you'd send them that link in the email, you'd ask them 3 or 4 questions. Don't ask them too many questions, they're not going to answer it. Remember, you want feedback. Ask them 2 or 3 questions, capture the data on this form. Once they hit submit, you'll get an email giving you all their answers. And then all of a sudden, you'll begin to have answers of how you can position your marketing, how you can position your products and your offers, how you can position your coaching, and all that sort of thing. Does that make sense? Is everyone clear on that? Now, here's the second way that we're going to do this. And that second way, and this is very important because of what we're going to do on Facebook for you in just a couple of weeks. And this is what's called Graph Search. Now, Graph Search, like I showed you last time, I'm going to just kind of pull up my browser here. Graph Search, like I showed you last time, Graph Search is simply when you're logged into your Facebook here, it's this white box right here on the top. Now, everyone knows it exists there, but what people don't realize is the power of the Graph Search. Now, for the sake of this example, let's use people like Tony Robbins or Brendon Burchard or whatever, because these people are huge mega influencers. Let's say I'm trying to reach people in the business entrepreneur space, so we're going to do Brendon Burchard. So first, if I just go ahead and type Brendon Burchard, I'll see Brendon Burchard, Live, Love, Matter. That's his page. I'm going to see that he has 2.6 million followers or likes, which is totally great for me, because if I was in the business entrepreneur space and I so happened to want to generate an ad to specifically people who like Brendon Burchard, that means I have an audience of 2.6 million people who I know are very interested in business type, entrepreneur type offers. Now, how good is that? But the problem is, eventually, you're going to run out of those 2.6 million people, and you're going to run ad after ad and after ad, and that's going to last a long time. But let's take this an even step further. So you've identified an influencer in your space, and let's say, again, in this example, we are talking about Brendon Burchard and the entrepreneurial space. Watch what I can do here, right? So if I have Brendon Burchard, what if I want to do some more recon of other people who my audience might be following? So if I go ahead and type pages liked by people who like Brendon Burchard, and I hit enter, Graph Search is going to go into its algorithm and start spitting me back information. Now watch, if I just hit pages here, because I'm looking for pages liked by people like Brendon Burchard, look what Facebook is providing me with here. This is absolutely phenomenal. People who like Brendon Burchard also like Tony Robbins. Cool. Is that good information? People who like Brendon Burchard also like Jeff Walker's product launch formula. People who like Brendon Burchard also like Alex Neely, Ali Brown, Jonathan Budd, Melanie Duncan, John Astoraf, Nick Unsworth, Trey Smith, Saying Events, Richard Branson, Jack Canfield, Lead Pages, Jim Rohn. I mean, how valuable is that information? Now let's say I just go ahead and click Tony Robbins and I say, whoa, Tony has 1.5 million fans. And then guess what I could do now? If I said, okay, that's cool, pages liked by people who like Tony Robbins. I hope you're seeing the power of this. I mean, it's incredible. Facebook's algorithm is doing this all for you. And I go pages, okay, so pages. Now what do I get? I get another list of people who like Tony Robbins. Now Frank Kern, Marie Forleo, Jonathan Budd, Murray Smith, Brendon Burchard, we already looked at that, T. Harv Eker, Ali Brown, Jim Rohn, Jack Canfield, Trace, so on and so on. How powerful is that, right? Now let's say I said people, pages liked by people who like, right, Brendon Burchard. There we go. Pages liked by people like Brendon Burchard. So that's just one example, right? What are some of the limitations of this? What if I said something like groups joined by people, whoops, it's already there. Groups joined by people who like Brendon Burchard, and I hit enter. What's going to happen? Brendon Burchard, Live, Love, Matter. So that's a group there that we know. We know that the motivation group is part of it. That groups joined by people like. We're going to start to see a whole bunch of, in fact, I should probably even go here and just click groups. That'll give me even a better understanding here. So here, groups liked by people who like Brendon Burchard, or groups joined by people who like Brendon Burchard. People are part of Internet Marketing Super Friends. People are part of the Professional Speaking Association. Feed a Starving Crowd, The Woman on Facebook, Virtual Assistant, Secret Team. How awesome is that? What if I wanted to do something like this? Ready? You're going to love this. Books read by people who like Tony Robbins. There we go. So books liked by people like Tony Robbins. See more. What is this going to start to tell me? Well, people who like Tony Robbins like Think and Grow Rich. They like The Power of Now. They like Relationship Rules. We like Humans Are Angels. They like The Secret. They like The Power. They like Miracles Happening. I mean, literally what you can do is you can have Facebook build, it already has this algorithm and it knows everything about everybody who's already in there. And now you could use it, power squared. Yeah, you could use this now to do any kind of research that you need to do. And you can go on and on. What if I all of a sudden say books read by people who read Relationship Rules? I mean, there's really no end to what you can type into Graph Search here. And the goal now, and this is part of the homework you got, is to go do this over and over and over again until you have a massive list. And you literally want to write this all down or put it in an Excel spreadsheet or a Word doc or whatever kind of floats your boat there. You want to put this over and over and over again, have this huge, massive list of people that you can target. Now, of course, you're going to have to weed some of that out because not everybody or every book or every list is going to be relevant to you, but at least this is going to give you a huge pool of people that you can start to reach out to. And these are people who've already risen their hand and said, yes, I am interested in the similar type of things that you like to offer. Now, if you thought that this was powerful, Let me take it even one more step further and show you something that's even more powerful. And it's called Audience Insights. We're going to go into one of the many ad accounts. So you're going to pick, you're probably only going to have your ad account there. And then what you're going to do is click on this button called Audience Insights. Now watch what happens here when we do this. Now this is an even more powerful tool. In your ads manager, you're going to click, you'll see on the left side Audience Insights, and it's going to take you there, right? So we see on the left side some things that we can hone in on. So let's leave it to United States. Let's leave the age and the gender and age. Let's just leave all that blank for now. I mean, you could get very, very specific if you wanted. But let's say I go ahead here and I write Tony Robbins, right? Just for the sake of the example and keeping it clean. If I click on Tony Robbins here, right? Watch what happens. First, we're going to start to get demographics. So first, this is going to tell us that of the Tony Robbins fans, 74% are women, 26% are men. It's going to tell me that the majority of them are between the 45 and the 54-year-old age range, with second place not too far behind being 35 to 44. 65 plus is 4%, 18 to 24 is 1%. So this is starting to give you an age and a gender demographic of people who like Tony Robbins, which is right here. Going even lower, right? Lifestyle, U.S. demographic and interest data. There's going to tell you some things about them. Let's kind of sort this by selected audience. The vast majority of them, the people who like Tony Robbins, are apple pie families. If you want to know what apple pie family is, you just kind of scroll over. Apple pie families are the upper middle class couples with school-aged children. They're homeowners, often minivan drivers, and avid radio listeners. How awesome is this? So the vast majority of Tony's followers are apple pie families, some solid single families. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Urban tenants, so on and so forth. Okay? Now, if you scroll down even further, it's going to tell you some more valuable information, right? Relationship status. Most of them are married, right? Few of them engaged, few in a relationship, the rest are single. Okay? Education level. Most of them have a college degree, 66%. Right? 20% in high school, which makes sense from the age demographic we saw above. 10%, in grad school. I mean, is this cool or cool, right? What about the job titles? What are the industries of people that are working in who like Tony Robbins? We'll just click this to kind of sort it there. Selected audience. Look at that. 22% of them are in the healthcare and medical field. Who would have known this stuff, right? Sales. How many people are in the sales, management, educational library? You can go on and on. You can click see all. That's just skimming the surface. Watch what else this does. If I click over here to page likes, this is now going to tell me pages liked by people who like Tony Robbins. So in the writer category, their number one writer, that people who like Tony Robbins, like Nick Ortner. I don't know who he is. In the coaching space, they like Andrea Reiser, whatever, happiness coach. The organizations, this is what they like. The products or the service, small bit ahead. If I wanted to, I can right-click that and open that in a new page to learn more a little bit about what they are, right? What magazines do they read? Success magazines, Steps to Health. Who's the business person that they're following? Sandra Krakowski. Public figures, who are they following? Well, look at that. They like Brendon Burchard, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Maxwell. Communities that they're part of. The Law of Attraction, The Secret, right? Lessons learned in life, Living Positive. What bloggers they're following? Awakening People. My God, I hope you are seeing the power of this, right? Page likes, it's going to tell you, right? Affinity, close enough. So if you want to sort that, it's going to tell you right there. More pages that they like, right? Nick Ortner, T.R. Becker, John Assaraf, Smarter Networker, Emotional Mojo, Bob Proctor, so on and so forth. What about if you want to know whereabouts they live? Huh? Okay, let's sort this. Looks like the 5% of Tony followers live in Chicago, Illinois. The rest are in Los Angeles, New York. They're all 5%, a little bit less. Houston, Atlanta, Miami, Dallas, San Antonio, San Diego, Las Vegas. You can click see all and see all those. What about some of the activity that they're participating in? Right? Well, how many pages do they like? Average number of pages that they like. Comments, posts, likes, shared, promotions redeemed, ads clicked. It'll tell you that people like Tony Robbins, 42% of them click on ads. Is that good information to know or not? What types of devices are they using? Desktop and mobile only. Computer, iPhone, iPad, Android, BlackBerry. Too bad for BlackBerry there. Mobile web, feature phone, unknown. Okay, let's click on the household. I mean, we could spend forever in here. I hope you're seeing the power of this. Household income, okay? The majority of them are between 50 and 75K annually. Good to know, right? Plus 500 here. Are they renters or are they owners? It looks like it's kind of split down the middle. Household size, 1. How big is their family? Right, all the way down to 6. Home market value, I guess this information is not information that we have right now connected to a partner category, so no problem there. Spending methods. How are they spending money? Is this good to know? Any card, bank card, travel cards, gas, right? Upscale department stores, premium. Are they using cash primarily or are they using credit cards primarily? I mean, this is some serious debt. What have they been buying? Okay, so the retail spending in the U.S., they're buying low tier items, not high, right? You see all this. Business, what are they spending their money on? Clothing, food and drink, subscription services, pet products. I hope you dig this. I get really excited about this, as you can tell, because it's really so powerful. This is the market research that you can do, and it makes everything so much more powerful, right? So that's called audience insights. So here's the takeaways that I'm going to suggest to you here. Number 1, find your pond, right? We've talked about that. Find your pond. Carve out your piece of the market. How do you do that? You know what you do, which is essentially helping people. That's what you're in the business of doing. Who you serve, right? Be very clear about who your hero client is, and then where you stand in terms of that ladder of your marketplace. Where do you stand in that? And where do you want to stand, right? Number 2, identify your fish. So that's where the customer avatar exercise comes in. You're going to identify that avatar and be very specific and create that story, right? Number 3, cast your net. And that's where you're going to survey your audience. You're going to use graph search. You're going to use audience insights to do that. So here's your homework. Here's the to-do list, okay? And I know you hate homework, and so do I. So, I mean, this is totally up to you. I'm not going to check to see if you do that. Obviously, this is like totally up to you and if you want to do it. But it's totally going to benefit your business, and you're going to get the most out of this. But number 1, do the customer avatar exercise. So again, the link is fbincubator.com/avatar. That will take you right to the PDF. You can download that PDF there. You can just go through the customer avatar exercise. There's no guesswork needed. I mean, you're going to be able to do it and come out with it on top, and you're going to have it, right? And then go on to the Mad Men thing if you want, and create your customer avatar and stick it on your wall beside your computer or whatever. So that's number 1. Number 2, do some recon, right? So how do we do the recon? We do the survey. Use SurveyMonkey, which we confirmed has a free offer. So use SurveyMonkey or Wufoo Forms, or just put a post in a group or on your wall, getting some really good feedback. Secondly, use graph search and start creating and compiling these lists of your ideal customer and client, and who's associated with them, and what are the books they've read, and what are the types of things that we do, and then what do they spend their time, okay? You can even put, places people checked into that like Tony Robbins, and you're going to see like all the restaurants and stores in your area that people check into who are fans of Tony Robbins, which is really cool. And then thirdly, use audience insights. Go in there, dig around, right? Get a really clear idea of who your ideal customer and client is.